Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Following the 2020 election, we got a lot of flack. You had a bunch of right-wing YouTubers all making these wildly inaccurate predictions, and following that prediction miss, of course the assumption was that the right-wing view was out of touch with reality, and that the country was moving back towards the left. There was all this talk of Texas eventually turning blue, Georgia's now a blue state, but I'd say Democrats there probably jumped the gun a little bit. I think there were other factors that led to what we saw in the previous election cycle that I think make for a much better explanation than the entire country is moving left. And so honestly, that previous election, I think, has given the left a false sense of security. They thought that they were in the driving seat. And obviously now I think they've learned that they've been deeply, deeply wrong. And so I guess who in the end was the party that was out of touch? I'd say it seems pretty clear these days. And boy, do I have the perfect clip to show you guys to make this point. Everything they said to us back in 2020, I think is more true boomeranged back into their direction. Let's have a conversation about that. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so I've been going through a lot of these missed predictions, and this one from Bill Maher, I'd say has to be the best one. Here's a clip from a couple months back where Bill Maher makes his prediction of what he thought was going to happen in this election. Take a look.
Am I going to worry about it? First of all, I'm not going to worry about it, Phil, because he's not going to win.
So you think he's just worn it out? You think people are just going to get fatigued?
Enough. I feel
category fatigue.
I mean, it's just going to be, we're talking about a few 100,000 people perhaps, but I think it's going to be a little closer than that. First of all, she's definitely going to win the popular vote, as Democrats almost always do now. But I think she will win. I think he will, of course, go batshit insane, as he always does. He won't accept it. His followers, I think, I don't think their heart will really be in it, as it was in 2020. Some of them, there's lots of people who will always be in the bunker with Mrs. Goebbels, taking the poison and giving the poison to the children because it's better than living in a world without National Socialism. I make an analogy, but I don't say he's a Nazi. But I think for most people, it's just fatigue. Yes, I think it's time.
Yeah, but we were the ones who were out of touch. Even though our predictions were much closer in the previous election than they give us credit for. Joe Biden was supposed to win by 10, no? He was supposed to win by big numbers in every single swing state, but he only ended up winning by 40,000. And that was despite everything that happened in the previous election. Yet Democrats saw this as a bullish sign for them moving ahead. They thought they had a big mandate to do whatever they wanted. And most importantly, I think they thought that Donald Trump was no longer going to be an issue. Basically, like Bill Maher was suggesting, up until a couple weeks ahead of Election Day, they were convinced in their minds that the country was rejecting Donald Trump. I guess they bought the totally fabricated fake news campaign that was suggesting that Republicans were ditching Trump in favor of Harris, a phenomenon, by the way, that never actually showed up in the polls, not even once, not even in the most left-wing of push polls. They actually bought into it, and now here they are looking, oh, so foolish now, aren't they? Once again, most of the predictions that came from the left going into this thing aged like a carton of old milk sitting out in the beautiful Florida sun. Oh, all that smug confidence, predicting that the country had turned on Donald Trump, that it was all over for the MAGA movement. Yeah, well, reality hit differently now, didn't it? And let's be clear that this isn't some one-off miss from Bill Maher. This is a pattern, a track record of being wrong time and time again. Bill Maher is supposedly this thought leader with deep political insight, but I wouldn't describe what he does as insightful whatsoever. It's the ramblings of an out-of-touch elitist man who spends way too much time in the New York Times echo chamber in his little Hollywood bubble, socializing with the coastal elite. Bill Maher loves to posture himself as a renegade liberal who isn't afraid to call out the left. But let's not kid ourselves. He's nothing more than an establishment Democrat in disguise. He plays this I'm the last sane liberal shtick, but when it comes down to it, he essentially regurgitates the same corrupt elitist Democrat talking points, time and time again. People like him claim to be at the cutting edge of political thought, but the reality is he's just another gatekeeper for the Democrat establishment, a court jester for the liberal elite, let's call it, tossing out crumbs of criticism to appear edgy and on the cutting edge, but he essentially spends most of his time propping up and protecting the exact system that he pretends to criticize. And so no wonder, once again, he was totally wrong. He was living in a left-wing media echo chamber that had created a total false reality. They thought money could buy them this election, that they would just automatically win and walk directly into the White House because they had inflicted enough PR damage on President Trump. That was the intention here. That was the expectation, let's be real. Just looking at some of the incredible mashups currently bouncing around social media, you could tell exactly what I'm referencing. Here's a supercut made by America 1000 on the X platform, showing the general attitude and demeanor from the hosts on MSNBC heading into election night.
All the anticipation, all the excitement, all the anxiety, all the doom scrolling, all the manic refreshing of polling averages, it has all been leading to this hour. And we know you have every choice in the world for where to spend tonight, so we're really grateful that you're spending it with us, and we hope you'll be with us through the duration.
How's everybody doing? First time voting?
Yes.
How you feeling?
Good.
Are you guys doing okay, too?
Yes, we're doing great. Kamala.
I was going to ask who you're going to vote for, but I didn't need to.
Kamala, because lives matter.
First time voting? As you know, this is where the Harris campaign wants to drive up the numbers to sort of counteract that T in the middle of Pennsylvania to counteract the rural votes that the Trump campaign is expected to get.
And so what you've seen in the last couple of weeks, if this is an audition for managing a complex organization like the United States, Kamala Harris has passed the audition flawlessly. This has been, in many ways, a perfect campaign. And what the campaign is talking about now is the granular get-out-the-vote effort that you just don't see on the other side. On the other side, you're seeing Charlie Kirk going on X Twitter this morning and begging people to vote.
The last week has been a very good close for Kamala Harris, not a good close for Donald Trump. He hasn't been able to fill the rallies. He's addled. He has racist comedians opening. Whatever. It's been a trashy week for Donald Trump. It's been a very strong week for Kamala Harris.
I mean, blue wall, baby. There was always going to be a blue wall night. Some of the fantasies, right, of a landslide victory that would erase any doubt, that would eradicate, the threat.
The idea that people here are nauseously optimistic, not just cautiously optimistic, but nauseously optimistic. The real focus now is on that blue wall in the Midwest. They knew that this was going to be a long night and that it was going to be a real nail-biter, and it appears that that is exactly what we're looking at right now.
They were so certain that the night was theirs, even though everything was indicating the exact opposite. Now, I think probably some people were smart enough to realize that most of it was copium, maybe hopium at best, but some of these people, they really believe it. Their brains are hardwired to MSNBC and the New York Times. And so to them, whatever the mainstream media is writing about, that's got to be reality on the ground. Tony Hinchcliffe made a joke at Madison Square Garden, and so now it must be over as widespread backlash spreads across the Latino community, especially in Pennsylvania. It felt more like Democrats begging the 500,000 Pennsylvania residents who happen to be Puerto Rico, please be offended and then vote for us. To the average Democrat who just reads the New York Times headline, they believed it. Oh, it's definitely over for Trump now. Meanwhile, those of us actually paying attention to what's going on beyond just reading the headline and accepting it hook, line, and sinker, we noticed this supposed big widespread backlash from the Puerto Rico community in Pennsylvania was like 2 people. Two people probably sent by the Kamala campaign. But of course, people like Bill Maher didn't see that. Bill Maher doesn't even know what MK Ultra is. He's the most arrogant, while simultaneously being the least informed political commentator in the game. He sits around smoking a bunch of doobies all day, waiting for his pre-written script to be handed to him. Just read the lines, Bill, and sound smart while you're doing it. A bunch of propaganda puppets who never had any idea of what was actually happening in the country. And so everything they said about us back in 2020, I guess ended up being much more true about them. They were the ones who didn't see what was happening. The country was ditching them and their political leadership. And the country is clearly moving rightward like never seen before. Texas is not in play. Georgia is not in play. But Virginia, New Hampshire, New York, and New Jersey might be on path, and I'll just leave it at that. The talking heads are increasingly out of touch. They don't know what they're doing. They just aren't tuned in like we are. They're obviously pushing something instead of doing actual quality political analysis. And that's why they're looking like such utter fools this beautiful election cycle. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.